To Wits University's Great Hall in Braamfontein, where final preparations for the special official funeral of ANC stalwart and anti-apartheid activist Gertrude Shope. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the eulogy at the funeral service today. My colleagues Iman Rapeti and Newzroom Afrika join us live from there. Iman, a number of people have begun to arrive, including Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi. Who else is in attendance so far?
Well, just behind me, you'll see a few golf carts pulling in, Master Chaba, and good morning to our viewers as well. And this really is a moment for the ANC's family album to be on full display, family album for the ages. And we see stalwart and senior members of the ANC Women's League coming into the venue as well. We'll be in conversation with a number of those who were instrumental in the formation of the ANC Women's League and who will recollect in a more of a legacy way the contribution that Ma Shope has made, not only on the ANC Women's League, but on women's struggles in general. We'll also home in on Ma Shope, the family person who influenced so many young women with her own career and encouraged so many young women to continue a life of service to humanity and especially to marginalized women. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. You did mention the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi. It is one of the big moments as well for the ANC as they lay to rest someone who has shaped the history of the party. Good morning, Premier, and thanks for being with us. I know it's very cold, but what a warm moment this is in some ways to recollect and look down that long telescope of history in the ANC. You will be handing over the reins to the President today, who will be delivering the eulogy. Talk to us a bit more about this moment, this Category 1 funeral, and who else we're likely to see in attendance as the ANC marks the passing of a great leader of the party.
Thanks so much, Iman, and good morning to our viewers. What an honor. And I want to thank our President for conferring Category 1 of this funeral to an outstanding woman who, some of us, when our parents didn't agree to participate in the struggle, she became our mother, who took over the leadership not only of the Women's League but of the ANC to the next level, who, as we have the constitution of the country and many other policy positions that we've adopted, from non-racialism, non-sexism, democracy, these are the crafters of those ideas, who spent sleepless nights to gather the thought, to position ourselves to be respected the way we were respected on the global world. So today it's nothing else but a signpost that for 99 years she sacrificed everything. For 99 years she shaped and sharpened the future of our country, and let's honor her. And for the President to declare Category 1 of this funeral, we're not only humbled by the gesture, but I hope the family will understand that this was indeed an outstanding leader of our movement and of our country.
Quarter of a century almost in exile, paying a really high price for fighting for her own values and the values of liberation in our country. It's not a small feat at all. Coming back to South Africa with the ANC Women's League after a long life of struggle and sacrifice in exile. This is an ANC she would have seen go through many different transformations, Premier, including a fall from grace in a way through the struggles over the last election. Can you share with us some of the conversations?
All right, that is Iman Rapeti, who is coming to us live from Wits University in Johannesburg, where the funeral service of the late Gertrude Shope will be taking place this morning. And now let's cross over to Newzroom Afrika, our colleague who is also there. Ziniko, what can we expect from the program? We know that President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering the eulogy. What else?
So far we have been told that obviously in terms of the protocol, the Premier of Gauteng and of course is going to welcome the leadership, but also all the guests, including the President as the host, Premier of this particular province in Gauteng. As you know, that this funeral is happening here in Gauteng, and we can expect Premier Panyaza Lesofi to be, welcoming the guests and family members as well. But in terms of international speakers as well, we know that there are some representatives who will be coming from some organizations on the continent who will be coming to pay tribute to Mam Shope as well. So those are the people we can confirm that they will be taking onto the podium as well. But also family representative will be, sharing their own stories, family members, the daughters or the children, but also the grandchildren as well. But in terms of the people who have come out so far, who have come inside the hall, I saw the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Ntate Amos Masondo, the premier as well, is here, and also the leadership and the chief of the Army of South African National Defence Force here have already made their way. But in terms of the ministers, none of the national ministers or also members of the executive have made their way inside the hall. But what is interesting here is the colors that I'm seeing here. As we know that Mama Shope was one of the leaders of the ANC Women's League, actually one of the founding members in terms of strengthening the powers and ensuring that the Women's League takes its place within the politics of the ANC itself. Remember that back then the ANC, during its founding years, the ANC Women's League was not so dominant in terms of its policy, in terms of its program, but people such as Mama Shope played a very big role in terms of standing out and also making sure that the voices of women was well represented. So we see the members of the Women's League here, coming in very early compared to any other leadership we've seen or any structures. The Women's League is here. But also we expect some leadership from the trade unions here in South Africa, especially COSATU. Remember, she was also a very prominent trade unionist in Shope. So we can expect as well members of the South African Communist Party as well, as you know that they are the alliance partner of the ANC. So this is what is happening. The stage is well set. They are currently testing the mic as well, but also the officials who are responsible for protocol, they're just doing their last minute preparations to ensure that they prepare for any moment. Now we know that the program will officially be starting between 9 o'clock and all the way to 10 o'clock. So that's what is happening here inside. But let's get a glimpse of what's happening on the other side, where my colleague Iman, she is with some guests there, but also giving us some insights in terms of the color that's happening outside the Great Hall.
Thanks, Nico. And certainly there is a lot of that colour, a lot of arrivals, high-profile dignitaries, but people who walk that long journey with Shope. We also see the military as well preparing for their official duties this morning, and we'll check back with them a little bit later on. We'll have some descriptions of exactly how a Category 1 funeral is conducted insofar as the official armed forces are concerned in the country. But I have with me, because it's a story not only about Shope and who she was to us as a country, as a nation, but who she was as a family person. And there's so many tender memories to share. And Klangalani Peterson joins me now, who is from Botswana. I know you've made a really long journey to get here. And I'm going to share some pictures with our viewers in just a moment of her farewell in December from Botswana, making that final journey back to South Africa. No one knew it was going to be so close to the end, did they?
Nobody knew. She was so full of hope and life. Shope, a strong woman, and I was blessed to meet her for the last 2 to 3 years, spent quality time with her, being based in Botswana.
We are sharing pictures with our viewers of that farewell moment, and you became quite good friends with her daughter, who is the Consul General or the Ambassador of South Africa to Botswana. You yourself are in the UN Population Fund. It's also an organization that is very much involved with the rights of women and mitigating the effects of poverty and all sorts of social ills on women. Talk to us about that role and how it connects to the work that Shope has been doing in that arena over these many, many decades.
It is that very essence that has compelled us to come to South Africa today to pay our last respects to a struggle stalwart who paid a price for fighting for freedom. And today, I am a daughter of South Africa and a beneficiary of her courage and fight for justice. So we are inspired about the life of Shope, because she really stood to make sure that we are not compromised, especially as women. The fight for gender equality continues even today, but she has established a powerful legacy that inspires and challenges us to uphold it for those who are coming behind us. And what is important that I can say is that for those of us whom opportunities have been opened, we have a great example of making sure that we create a legacy that cares for the most vulnerable women, that creates opportunities for women in all their capacities and differences, and that gives a voice to the women because they are the pillar and back of the nation as well.
Hlangelani, thank you so much for those tender recollections and for sharing your family photos with us as well. We really do appreciate it. And safe journey back to Botswana as well, you and your family. I'm going to hand it next to Zaniko, who's standing by with, again, a well-known and recognized figure of the ANC Veterans League. And this is Mr. Snooki Zikalala. Zaniko?
Yes, Iman, indeed, we've got the president of the ANC Veterans League, Dr. Snooki Zikalala, one of the veterans that are still, within the ranks of the ANC and in active politics. Bob Zikalala, thank you very much for your time. A very, very special day. I know you've got fond memories with Ms. Shope, but also as a veteran, how special is this day, especially looking at the journey of Mam Shope in the struggle, but also transitioned with us into democracy and seen us in the past 30 years. How would she view where we are now as a country from perspective of veterans?
Well, all that as veterans can say that we are saddened by the untimely death of Mam Shope, and she has achieved a lot. A barbed wire tree has fallen, an icon has fallen, and so we're happy that she's managed to see the fruits of our democracy. She has managed to make sure that we have this constitutional democracy which we all enjoy. She has managed to make sure that we have the rule of law in the country. She has made sure that we as black people in the country, as South Africans of all racial groups, are free now to join any political party that you want and to make sure that we have to bring about stability in the country. And so she was a champion of women, a comrade who was prepared to die for the liberation of our people, especially women. She was very passionate about women's education, women's emancipation. She's, for instance, when I was in Bulgaria finishing my PhD, she visited the International Women Organization. There at the conference, she started telling international delegates why they should isolate South Africa, how black African women are being treated in South Africa. She also told them about triple oppression. Yeah. They said, what is a triple oppression? Because in the socialist countries, women were much more freer because the constitution was defending them. She was telling them that women at home, they're oppressed by their husbands, because when the husband had been frustrated at work, they come back at home, they take it to their wives. They start bringing food and kicking the house. So that's how women are oppressed. And they are being beaten by their husband. And then secondly, they are oppressed because as women, now being women, they get low-paid salaries, they don't get education, they're not health and safety. Some of them, they're not even allowed to change sanitary pads at work. That's their oppression that they feel. Thirdly is that they're oppressed because of the color of their skin, as women, black women. And so that's a triple oppression that she spoke about. And so she was really fighting to make sure that we should be where we are today.
Doctor, as veterans, I would say she falls within your ranks.
Yes, it does.
As veterans, you're playing a very critical role, not only in society, but within the ranks of the ANC, and you've got that responsibility of providing that mentorship, that guidance. How will she view the current state of the movement in the context of how it's governing and also ensuring that the issues you're saying Ms. Shope fought for, especially when it comes to women, they are realized within society that we're living in right now, 30 years into democracy?
No, I remember vividly that in 2016, when the Zuma administration went rogue within the ANC and in government itself, we then mobilized there. And there was a lot of gatekeeping in terms of mobilizing veterans within the organization itself, because immediately if you don't sing the song of Zuma, they think that you're against the organization, but you're against the individual. And so we then initiated a process of contacting stalwarts, and we made sure that she became one of the 101 signatories who signed a petition saying that Zuma, you are not representing us. What you are doing currently is not what the ANC stood for. She was now that time the ANC had already expelled the president of the ANC, Sijake, because he opposed what Zuma was doing. Yeah. She was prepared that anything should be done with her, but that's how principled she was. And so currently she's happy that we have democracy, but she's not happy about our performance in terms of making sure that we deliver on service delivery. She's not happy about how municipalities are run, because in municipalities, that's where a lot of pilfering happens, that's where extortion happens, that's where corruption happens, that's where people don't get the services that they want. And so she wants that ANC should be very, very firm and disciplined within municipalities, so that those councillors who are at council deliver quality service to our people, because the resources are there, but people who are bent on being corrupt are the ones who are making sure that the resources don't go to the poor.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That's the president of the ANC Women's League. Let's bring in very quickly, some of the members in terms of as we pay tribute, Mama, to Mama Shope, a stalwart, a woman activist, human rights activist, a trade unionist. Talk to us about your own reflections on who she was, but also reflecting on the current state we find ourselves in now as a country.
Well, I served with Mbete in exile. I worked with her in Lusaka in the ANC women's section. And what I know and remember about her is that she was a humble leader who felt very passionate about women's issues. She made sure that women in the camps had their sanitary pads, and also made sure that they had their underwears, and those who fell pregnant, she also ensured that they were looked after in Mazimbu, that they had a special place where they could then be looked well after. So Mashope really taught us about gender equality and the importance of women claiming their spaces wherever they find themselves.
Sorry, Mama, to cut you. Mama, you're describing her as a mother who cared about a little child. Right now in South Africa, we're talking about children who get missing. We're talking about children who don't have access to sanitary pads. We're talking about people who are still suffering the same issues Mama Shope ensured that you and your generation had. Do you think we still have those motherly figures within government, within the political structures as well? What's missing?
I think what is missing is more coordination. There are a lot of NGOs that are already in this space in terms of trying to ensure that girl children do not miss school because of they don't have sanitary pads. I think we need to coordinate our efforts more to make sure that we reach each and every area where it is needed.
Mama, thank you very much, Mama.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mama. Those are the reflections, on the life of Mama Shope being described, and also given insights in terms of the role she played within the structures of the ANC, but also with last Mama, they've just given us insights in terms of how mother Mama Shope was when it comes to those young girls and activists who were serving under her.
Let's go to this now. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the eulogy at the funeral service for ANC stalwart and anti-apartheid activist Gertrude Shope today. The 99-year-old stalwart died at home in Gauteng last week. Known as Mashope, she served the ANC in exile during apartheid and also in parliament following the country's first democratic elections. President Ramaphosa declared a Category 1 special official funeral for her. My colleagues Iman Rapeti and Ziniko Mhlaba are at Wits University's Great Hall in Braamfontein, where that ceremony will take place. We'll take you there for more on the ground. As we can see, people are already arriving and filling up the Great Hall at Wits University to celebrate this incredible woman who was essentially power personified. And Mashope was instrumental in amplifying the voices of women within the broader struggle for equality and justice. And she held a firm belief that women played an essential role in the liberation of South Africa, advocating tirelessly for their rights and representation. Let's go to Man right now.
Thank you so much, Masachaba. It is, as I said earlier on, a moment to really reflect on the ANC's family album in that long journey that many have walked with Shope. And we have with us this morning the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Mrs. Baleka Mbete. I know I grabbed you as you came off the car there. Thank you so much for giving us your time. How do you reflect on a life that we all say has been so well lived?
Absolutely. A memory that comes right now is when Madiba had just come out of prison, and we had been going through a series of discussions, women who were in the women's section in the external mission, and women who were in the mass democratic movement, in particular who were working within the umbrella of the United Democratic Front. We had met at various places in Harare, at the Children's Conference. We met again in Amsterdam at the Malibongwe Conference. We were talking all the time as women of South Africa, both in the external mission and inside the country. So we were ready when Madiba came out, shortly after we came from the Malibongwe Conference, when suddenly there was an announcement that the political leaders were coming out of prison, and we received Mama Winnie Mandela together with Utata coming through Lusaka at that time. And it was so great to receive them. And I remember Shope had made sure that we would think carefully and put together a package to give to Mama Winnie to prepare her, because of course she had been operating inside the country, we had been in the external mission, and so we had to put together material that would be useful for her as they were going to be traveling with Tata. So we went to the airport in Lusaka, and I remember we had very little time to meet and just explain to her that we're giving her this package which we prepared, just reading material that would enable her to interact out there. And that time, we were led by Mama Gertrude Shope. Those were the years also when we were now preparing to come back to South Africa. And the ANC Women's Task Force became the first group of more than 10 people. There were 13 of us, I believe. I thought there were more, but apparently there were 13 of us. I was reminded by Nosiviwe yesterday when we were at the memorial service. So, Shope was a great leader. She prepared us to come back home. One of the matters that come to mind is that she was very emphatic about the importance of us ensuring that in the tensions that were within the mass democratic movement at the time, and there had been many events, developments, activities, some of them controversial, around some of the leadership. And Shope's point was, our role is to maintain the unity of the women, to maintain the unity of the African National Congress. And we came into the country in June I remember it as 1991. I hope I'm historically correct. You can't trust our memories these days. And it was not easy, the environment we arrived into. Remember, apartheid was still in place. As I say, even the South African Defence Force was still in our townships. There was tension. There had been tension in the community as we left it outside because we were not all 100% convinced it was time to come home. But the women were determined, and we were led by Shope. She persuaded the ANC leadership that no, allow the women to go home. So that's why we were the first group that arrived back in those numbers. Of course, there were comrades who had come for the talks about talks, and all of that. So it is a very difficult time to let go of Mama because we want our parents to be around us. We're never ready for them to go. We were looking forward to celebrating her 100 years.
3 months shy of her 100th birthday in August.
3 months.
Ms. Mbete, a final question before I let you go. Just when you reflect, we reflect often in the responsibilities that we've had to bear. I'd like you to share just one reflection, woman to woman, that you would have taken away, a tender memory between you and Shope.
Shope, I remember the one quality she had, a brave leader, a courageous leader. But all that courage was carried and executed humbly. Shope would come in and out of the countries where we had our camps, where we were training young people to come back and fight in South Africa. She paid attention to the young military trainees, but she paid attention to all sides of any controversy, even including the Quattro spaces, where some would have been locked up because of being suspected to be working for the enemy. Shope took it as her responsibility as a leader, as a mother, as a parent, not just to a few, but to all. Not just to her children, but to the rest of us. So she'll always remain a beacon for us to remember.
Mbete, thank you so much for talking to us. Appreciate your time this morning. And we'll continue to reflect on the life and legacy of Shope. Masachaba, back to you.
Thank you very much, Imandla Petty. Now, from one tribute to another.